Professor Thomas Piketty has noted that the improved distribution in global income has made some strides over the last 100 years or so, but there are still huge income inequalities across gender and class, for example. As for wealth equality, there's hardly been any movement in this regard.
This movement toward more equality in the distribution of wealth has been much more limited than for the distribution of income. And in particular, the bottom 50% basically owns almost no wealth, everywhere. There's no country where, the share going to the bottom 50% is larger than 5 or at most 10%, including in Northern Europe. It's particularly unequal in a country like South Africa, where it's basically 0% or 1% or even negative.
Piketty has welcomed a move towards the possibility of a basic income grant in the country. But given South Africa's complex history and the current income and wealth status quo, he believes gestures like these won't go far enough.
But, I think if you don't redistribute primary assets themselves, including wealth and bargaining power and residential, probably it's going to be difficult to change really this extreme concentration of primary incomes that we have in South Africa. So that's a very difficult challenge.
Speaking more broadly to the African continent, WTO head Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala says that Africa as a whole only accounts for around 2.6% of global trade. She says half of that trade consists of raw materials, which include mineral resources, with very little in the way of beneficiated products. Okonjo-Iweala says it would be great if that number could more than double to around 6% in the next 10 years, emphasizing her belief that trade could go a long way in improving the levels of inequality experienced on the continent.
What about looking elsewhere to other countries where, the conditions are ripe for you to relocate your supply chain? So we are actively talking to companies, developed countries, to take a strategy of global diversification of value chains. That way they can look at Africa. South Africa has the conditions. You have a high unemployment, but you do have, the macroeconomic environment, maybe not as good as it used to be. But South Africa is capable of attracting some of these supply chains for pharmaceuticals and other industries. You already have some of them. There are other countries in Africa that are capable, Ghana, Senegal, Rwanda, and so on, my own country, Nigeria. We should think about how we do that.
Piketty also weighed in on the climate change discussion, saying that it was important that the developed world make tools, including finances, available to aid particularly the developing South. He's noted that developed nations largely achieved their current economic status on the back of slavery, colonialism, and the division of international labor markets to their advantage, while also being main contributors to the phenomenon of climate change, adding that it would be hypocritical for them not to do their part in helping less developed nations prosper going forward. Nompumelelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.